Alrighty, well, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this Policy Advocacy 101 training. My name is Amanda Ritten. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the policy organizer for San Diego 350. So as people are joining, I'd like to encourage everyone to please add their name and their pronouns to their Zoom name. And in addition, just a reminder to stay muted for the duration of the event. We're going to have a couple opportunities for questions and opportunities to share out loud. But in terms of questions, we'd love those right in the chat. Feel free to put those questions in the chat right as they arise. Also want to inform everyone that we are going to be recording this event and sharing it out later. And at the end of the event, we're hoping to take a Zoom photo with you all. So for all of us who are in San Diego County, we're zooming in on Kumeyaay land. So I want to take the time to thank our ancestors that came before us, who cultivated and took care of this land that we now occupy. It's important for us to pay our respects for the past, present, and future generations of Kumeyaay people. All right, well, like I said, we're so excited that all of you are here. It looks like there's a few new faces here, so I wanted to give a little background on San Diego 350. So San Diego 350 is an inclusive volunteer organization devoted to inspiring a movement to prevent the worst impacts of climate change and climate injustice. And we strive to create a future that supports a livable planet and a just society through education and outreach, public policy advocacy, and mobilizing people to take action. So after today's training, I hope that all of you feel empowered to take action and join us and volunteer with us at San Diego 350. Next, we have a couple of facilitators that will be leading this training today. So I want to hand it over to them to introduce themselves. So Heather, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Heather Hofsche, and I volunteer with the Legislative Committee and the Franchise Agreement team.
Hi, I'm Marie Chen. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been with San Diego 50 for about 1.5 years now, and I am the public policy team co-chair, and I'm also on a few other committees.
Awesome, thank you all. All right, next slide. All right, so here is today's agenda. We're going to start off with talking about what policy advocacy is, and then we're going to dive into how to give public comment at public meetings, followed by a breakout session. Then we're going to move into best practices for meeting with elected officials, with another opportunity to practice your new skills in a breakout, and then we'll wrap up. Next slide. And if you haven't already, please sign up for our next session of this policy advocacy training series. It's going to be on Sunday, February 21st at 2 p.m. And we're going to be discussing how to multiply your impact by engaging friends, how to contact elected officials via phone, email, and social media, and then how to influence elected officials through letters to the editor. Next slide. Great. So before we jump in, I just wanted to go over our group norms for this session really quickly. And they are, I will treat everyone with respect. I will be an active listener and learner. I will assume others have good intentions, and I won't dismiss, criticize, or show disdain for others' ideas. I will speak on my own experience, and I won't assume that I know where others are coming from. Next slide. Just a few more. Wait, why am I talking? I will be present and take stock of why one is speaking. One mic, take turns speaking, and only one person speaks at a time. Step up, step back. Those who speak often, others. Those who speak rarely, please speak up. And finally, I will create a safe space in our meetings and in our work. San Diego 350 does not tolerate any forms of oppressive behavior, in particular, any sexism, racism, anti-Blackness, classism, homophobia, transphobia, or ableism. Next slide.
What's anti-Blackness?
All right, so what is policy advocacy? Next slide. Awesome. So throughout this training, we're going to be using technology called Jamboard. And this is just going to be a way for us to brainstorm ideas. So I'm going to drop this link for Jamboard into the chat right now. All right. Oops. Hold on one second. There we go. All right. So go ahead and open the link. I encourage you all to leave this link open throughout the entire presentation because we're going to be coming back to it quite a few times. But this is just a quick overview on how to use this technology. So at the top of the screen, you're going to see some small arrows that can advance each slide. And each of those slides is going to have a different question that we'd like your thoughts and answers to. So to add your thoughts and answers, you're going to go ahead and click a sticky note, the sticky note icon on the left side of the screen. Go ahead and type your answer in and then press save. It's important to know that automatically after you save a sticky note, another one's going to automatically appear. Feel free to add as many sticky notes as you'd like, but once you're done, you can just press cancel on that fresh sticky note that pops up. And then once you're done, go ahead and move your sticky notes around the board so that we can see everyone's answers. Next slide. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a try. We're going to go to page 3 of the Jamboard, and we're going to answer the question, what are you hoping to get out of today's training? And I'll give you a few minutes. Knowledge. How to engage effectively. Nice. I want to be a more effective speaker. Awesome. All right, looks like we're having a little bit of trouble with people not being able to view it. I apologize about that. So I guess I'll continue to drop the link and the Jamboard throughout the training, but once you're done making sticky notes, why don't you close out of the Jamboard so other people can join.
Can everyone see the Jamboard that's being displayed right now?
Yeah,
Yes,
yes. Okay. Yeah, and you can also go ahead and just answer your question in the chat if you're having trouble with the Jamboard. All right, so what are we hoping to get out of this training? Let's see, confidence, tips on speaking at city council meetings. We'll definitely go over that. Tips on how to be a better advocate, advice and best practices. Awesome. This looks great. So hopefully we can all, hopefully everyone will get what they're looking for out of this training today. Awesome. Let's go ahead and go back to the slides. Great. And we can go on to the next slide, Marie. Awesome. Okay, so now let's dive into the definition of policy advocacy. So policy advocacy is a range of strategic actions within a campaign to start, direct, or prevent specific policy changes by targeting and influencing decision makers and the people or organizations that influence them. So when we think about policy advocacy, we're really thinking, first we need to think about what kind of outcome we want. So what policy changes do we want to see? And then from there, we want to think about who can enact those policy changes that we'd like to see, what decision makers are involved. And then from there, we identify the strategic actions we should take to achieve the desired outcome. Next slide. So why is policy advocacy important for climate action? So as many of us know, climate change is a huge issue to tackle. And so in order to achieve our climate and environmental justice goals, we need structural, systematic, long-lasting changes to legislation, regulation, and policy at all levels of government. And advocacy and other tactics is how we influence decision makers to get the policy changes we desire. A lot of policy change action that we need cannot happen without elected officials, regulators, and government staff. So policy advocacy can help us communicate and build relationships with decision makers to advance our goals. Next slide. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about political power. And this is really the root of influencing climate action policy. So political power is the ability to influence the actions, beliefs, or behaviors of decision makers. And hopefully through influencing these decision makers, structural change can happen. So when we think, and just a reminder, if you have any questions, go ahead and just type those out into the chat and I'll answer them at the end. But when we think about political power, we're really examining the amount of influence one has on decision makers. And it's also important to know that some people and organizations have more political power than others. All right, next slide. Great, so we're gonna go back to the Jamboard. Again, if you can't access the Jamboard, please feel free to just put your answer to this in the chat. But we're gonna go to slide 4. And we're going to answer the question, what do elected officials care about? So now that we're thinking about policy advocacy and political power, what do we think that they might care about? Having power and money, getting reelected, votes, yes. Budget and money contributions, image. Hopefully some of them have principles. What people think of them, exactly. So they care a lot about how they're portrayed in the media also, as well as what their constituents think about them, being liked, reputation. Hopefully the community, yes, elected officials definitely have a few community issues that they're really passionate about. Keeping the right people happy, representing the people's causes, issues that directly impact their constituents, community engagement, fancy dinners, money, staying in office, exactly. Awesome. This is a great list. Constituents, the people who elected them, minimizing risk, freebies. Alrighty. Awesome, this is a great list. You guys all hit the nail on the head. Let's go ahead and go back to our slideshow. Awesome, thanks, Marie. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So, but I think all of these were covered in our Jamboard, but yeah, really elected officials care about getting elected. So thinking about who has the power to mobilize a lot of votes. So people like community leaders and organizations also care about money, people who raise money for them, their image in the media, and their image to their constituents, public input, and then the community issues they're passionate about. Alrighty, so we can go ahead to the next slide. Awesome, so this is gonna be just a really quick popcorn, so we're just gonna do it in the Zoom chat. But after thinking about what elected officials care about, who has political power? So who has the ability to influence the actions, beliefs, or behaviors of elected officials? And again, you can just go ahead and put those in the in the Zoom chat. CEOs, higher income groups. Constituents, mobilize communities and constituents, unions, industry, donors, yes. Those with money, PACs, large organizations. Awesome, yeah, media, community leaders. Exactly, so yeah, again, all of these are great answers. And also activists have a lot of political power with their ability to influence donors and voters. And also while we're having this conversation, it's also important to think about who doesn't have political power. So who has traditionally been excluded from the political process, and finding ways that we can include those voices and uplift those voices going forward. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next slide.
I ran into a little bit of a glitch. I actually closed out one of my windows. I'll have to stop share and start sharing again.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. And what slide are we on? So I can make sure we get back to the right place.
Let's see. We'll be on slide 15.
15? Okay, fantastic. Second. Sorry about this, guys. Hold on, I'm sorry. Okay, let's see if this is the right one. Uh-oh, I just got a glitch on screen share. Let me try something else.
Perfect.
Okay, and we're on 15, right?
Yep.
There we go.
Sweet. Okay, thank you, Marie. All right, so a little bit more on political power. Relationships are incredibly important. So if the elected official, their staff, or people in their circles trust you, the more likely they are to listen to you. And then also, the more people participating in our movement, the stronger we are, because we have more ability to influence voters and donors, as I was saying before. So that's why our policy advocacy work at San Diego 350 is people powered, because we want to build a movement by mobilizing the support of many people. Next slide. Awesome. So how do we show our political power? And that is through policy advocacy tactics. These are some of the most common ways San Diego 350 engages in policy advocacy tactics. So that includes turning people out to give public comment at meetings, meet with elected officials, contact elected officials, write letters to the editor, and multiply their impact by recruiting others to take action. This is not an extensive list of policy advocacy tactics, but as I said, these are some common ways that San Diego 350 engages in policy advocacy, and these are also going to be covered in this training and then our part 2 of this training series in a couple of weeks. Next slide. Great. So to close out this portion of the training, I wanted to share some examples of how San Diego 350 has used policy advocacy to move climate action forward. So first, I want to touch on how we helped pass SB 100. SB 100 is a Senate is a Senate bill that committed California to achieving 100% renewable energy by 2045. And so how did we do this? We helped organize a coalition press conference in San Diego. We asked our 350 affiliates in Northern California, including 350 Sacramento and 350 Bay Area, to speak for us at state legislative committee meetings. We also sent letters to committee members and legislators to support this bill, and we asked San Diego 350 members to call and email legislators to support this bill as well. Next slide. Awesome. Next, I want to talk about how we stopped a proposal to consolidate 3 San Diego environmental advisory boards. So the San Diego City Council wanted to discuss dissolving 3 existing city advisory boards, which included Sustainable Energy Advisory Board, the Wetlands Advisory Board, and the Community Forest Advisory Board. And they wanted to replace them with a new poorly planned environmental advisory board. And we were really concerned about this. We felt that the public and environmental organizations were ignored, and there was little done to notify or discuss these plans with any stakeholders. So we found out about this proposal just 3 days before the city council meeting, but we were able to organize and get the item pulled from the agenda. So how we did this, we communicated with partners, we got them to sign on to a joint letter opposing the proposal. Our coalition members met with council members, and we organized people to speak at the city council meeting, and we also posted information on social media and tagged elected officials. Next slide. All righty. So last, I want to talk about the La Mesa Climate Action Plan. So we got the City of La Mesa to implement a new climate action plan that aligns with our climate goals and uses a participatory public process. So we, in order to achieve this, we organized people to speak at multiple city council meetings and help do outreach for the public process. We met with council members and provided useful information to them to make informed decisions. And we got the CAP in the news, both in the local paper, newspaper, and on television. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how one could use a variety of policy advocacy tactics to achieve a desired outcome and ultimately move climate action forward. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. So go ahead and put those questions in the chat, and I will try to answer as many as I can. Alrighty, so what do you think the most effective strategy has been? I guess I don't think that there is one specific tactic or strategy that is more effective than the other. It is more effective when policy advocacy tactics are used together. And it really depends on the campaign and the timing of the action that we want or the desired outcome. Can you give dates of those actions you reviewed? I don't have exact dates for those, but I can definitely get back to you. How do you decide which tactics to use? Again, it's a lot about observing the whole campaign and coming up with a strategy from there. So identifying, key city council meetings that will be important to turn people out to. Timing of when to meet with elected officials. You most likely want to do those before big city council meetings or before decisions. So it really depends on the campaign and zooming out, looking at the broader picture, and then identifying the timing of these actions from there.
Amanda, can I just add to that very quickly?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, figuring out which tactics to use is a tricky thing, right? Because you really want to find the balance between which tactics do you think are going to be most effective to get the decision makers you're trying to reach to get to the point, make the decision you want them to. But you have to balance that with what you have available, you being a group or a coalition or you as an individual. So you want to find that happy place of like, you're doing the thing that's most effective that you are able to do well, if that answers. And that's a case by case basis, basically.
Awesome. Thank you, Masada. How important is it for those contacting elected officials to be in their own district and city from which they are elected? I would say that elected officials tend to listen more to people, their constituents. It doesn't mean that you couldn't reach out to elected officials that don't directly represent you. But I would say most elected officials are more in tune to what their constituents are saying. All right, why do public officials create ill-informed plans, such as that environmental advisory board? I'm not entirely sure I can speak on that specifically, but I can definitely get back to you. Are talking points essential? Talking points are a really awesome way to get people involved in the movement. For example, if you didn't happen to know a lot about SB 100, San Diego 350 could provide talking points. You'd be informed about how to speak at a meeting or with your elected official. So they do help for more inclusive practices.
They also help you get the message out that you want to get. So basically, if you provide some talking points that are that emphasize your priorities and give those out to people who may not be familiar with the topic, then they can also, speak to your priorities.
That's a great point. All right, where does San Diego 350 need the most help? If we're open to any of the actions listed, we'll have plenty of opportunities in the coming weeks and months for you to take any of these actions that we're going to talk about in these training series. So I'll give you more information at the end of how to sign up for our emails and all that good stuff. And I'll take this last question here. Is social media, Twitter, etc., a tactic for policy advocacy? Yes, absolutely. Tagging elected officials especially is a way of getting the elected official's attention on a particular issue. And also it helps spread the word for people who want to get involved. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for these questions. I am going to hand it over to Heather, who's gonna take on the next section.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk about public comment at public meetings, which, the actual concept is fairly self-explanatory from the title. Like literally, it's going to attending a meeting and making some sort of comment on the issues being discussed. It is one of the most intimidating ways to participate in the political process, especially if you're someone like me who has some issues with anxiety. It can be very intimidating to start out, but it's not as bad as you think it is, for one. Keep that in mind. And we'll get into, basically how it works and how you can do it, however you're comfortable doing it and the impact that it can make. I started doing this about a year ago, based on some of the things that we, have been advocating for at San Diego 350. And a lot of the toolkits, and things like that we put together really help you get familiar with it and get comfortable with doing it. So let's get into the actual meat of the matter. So Marie, could you hit the next slide, please? All right. Why does commenting at public meetings matter? First off, it is obviously a way to speak directly to elected officials. They're there, you're speaking to them. It becomes part of the official record, which is something I actually got, from one of the staffers who mentioned that, your comment goes into the record, in a way that it doesn't when you're just speaking informally to someone. It's the opportunity to highlight personal stories of constituents and their own voices. It's not just, an impersonal talking point. It's a opportunity to say, hey, this is how this, impacts me. You can advocate either for an action that's taking place in that meeting, an agenda item, something they're voting on, or you can use the non-agenda public comment period to talk about something that they haven't brought up yet that you feel needs to be addressed. And so that's a really powerful tool. when you organize with other people, you can demonstrate the sheer amount of people, as we say on the slide, the level, the breadth, diversity of support for a given issue. And when we can do it in person again, that also can include, just an impressive turnout of, oh, wow, there's a lot of physical people in this room, which, can send a very powerful visual signal. And it can get you in the news, which goes back to what we were talking about how, these people, want to be seen in a good light, to get the votes and the opportunities that come with public office. They need to look good. And so therefore their news coverage needs to be good. And if you can affect that, that's fantastic. Okay, next up, we are going to, Marie, if you want to hit the next slide, go into, a Jamboard of, basically, what do you think the do's and don'ts of public comment are? So if everyone could go to the Jamboard and put their thoughts, that would be awesome.
Also, once you have put in your sticky note, if you can close out of Jamboard so that everyone else has the opportunity to join. I think there's a 50-person limit.
Yeah, so be nice, get to the point, don't yak and yak. I like that. Speak from your heart in your own words. Be honest, clear, and concise. That's a really good one. Don't be too nice, be direct. Yeah, there is definitely a balance to be struck there. Be concise, be prepared. Have a clear ask or demand. That's a really good one. Practice. Yes, and that really helps both your delivery and your confidence. Ooh, that's a little one. Take the key points and add your own framework principles. That's a good one. Yes, Masada, you can be nice and direct. Be clear and confident. Fabulous. Okay, let's go on and go ahead to the next slide. All right, so these are, those were all really great principles on speaking public comment. This is more of a practical list. Do start with your name and, and district or neighborhood, if you don't know your district. They do pay attention to this. The last couple of times that I have spoken and given public comment, my new council member who just got elected used my name in his remarks at the end of the agenda, public comment period, which meant he'd actually been paying attention. Wow. Mind the word or the time limit. Usually the limit for like San Diego City Council meetings has currently been 1 minute. There's a word limit if you submit online written comments, and obviously you don't want to be cut off, so pay attention to that. Speak slowly. This is something I have problems with because I speak very quickly sometimes. Practice beforehand if you're nervous or if you want to time how long this comment that you're planning is actually going to take you. Add a personal story and be yourself. It's much more effective than just spitting out a bunch of random facts and figures that they're going to need to check the accuracy of anyway. Show how this impacts your life. So going along with that, craft your own message from the talking point. And when you finish up, and thank the officials for their time. They are, listening to, in like the case of the last council meeting I went to, the environment committee meeting, literal hours and hours of comments. So definitely thank them for that. Don't try to cover all the possible points at once. You will run out of time and you won't make an impact because you'll be just scattershotting your comment. And don't just read straight from the talking points. It's boring, quite frankly. All right, next slide, please. All right, here we have a little video with an example of public comment. Take it away.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Amanda Ritten. As a teacher in Pacific Beach, it's important to me that in the coming year, the City Council prioritizes public transportation. Transportation is the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions. A detailed roadmap must be implemented to achieve the 50% mode share goals for commuters to take transit, walk, and bike within transit priority areas. In addition, zero-emission buses for low-income communities of color and youth opportunity passes should be prioritized. The City Council should work to continue building clean transit throughout San Diego and invest in environmental justice communities. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Next slide. Thanks, Amanda, for providing that sample.
Good afternoon, council members.
Sorry,
My name is Amanda Ritten.
not going over. Okay, here we go.
There we go. So now we're going to hit the different kinds of public comment that you can give, basically in order of least to most intimidating. So first off, one of the easiest ones for most people is written public comment. You can usually submit these online, on the city's website. It has a form for it. Obviously it's quick and easy. It doesn't involve sitting through the meeting. You can, you do it in advance. It's not necessarily as powerful as hearing directly from you, but it is a way to get your words out there. It may or may not be read by the elected officials themselves. It's probably going to be read by staffers, who will pass on the aggregated messages that they receive, but the actual words might not make the same impact as if you got to give them in person. But, no one's staring at you while you do it. So there's that. Most cities do have a word limit, somewhere usually in the 150 to 200 words range, so be aware of that. You'll want to pick 1 to 2 talking points, to craft your message around. And again, as in-person comment, you want to state your name, your neighborhood, if you have a job title that you want to bring into a personal story, to work your ideas around, that's a great place to do it. So next slide. Yeah, the next level is virtual public comment, which at the moment is the bulk of our public comments because we are not meeting in person at this time. Almost, even before COVID, almost all of the jurisdictions have, live stream of their meetings, and you can call in, either virtually or over the phone to these meetings. So you'll want to go to their websites and find that information. Obviously, you want to tune into the meeting, make sure you're in a quiet place where you're not going to be interrupted as much as we can all manage these days. We've all seen the whole your toddler runs into your, Zoom meeting on national TV sort of stuff, but do your best. Listen to the meeting till it's time to give the public your items. This is very important, partially because sometimes they move agenda items around. They're not necessarily going to be when you think they're going to be. So pay attention to that. Follow the instructions, online, and also given aloud at the beginning of the meeting to, how to comment, may require calling into the meeting for your phone, using the raise your hand feature on Zoom. The San Diego City Council just moved to using Zoom for its meetings, which is so much better than what they were doing before. It's great. And wait until you're prompted to speak and then, state your comments. Next slide, please. And the, final, level of, public comment is in-person public comment. Obviously, this won't be happening for us again until, COVID situation is under control. Most of the things that you have in the verbal public comment also apply to this, but additionally, you need to consider, you're going to be speaking live in front of the whole council and also all the people attending the meeting. Your appearance matters. This is one of those classic don't wear, a corset top to a job interview at a law firm sorts of moments. You want to, look like you're treating them respectfully, and you want to be treated respectfully. So dress appropriately. You need to plan to attend the whole meeting. You can't just skip out in the middle, without looking extremely rude and undercutting your point if you're going to be going in person. When you get up to give your comment, use strong body language, make eye contact, and just try your best to look confident in what you're saying, and allocate enough time at a very practical level to find parking before the meeting. Make sure that the logistics are worked out so you're not running in there 10 minutes late, or something like that. So, okay, next slide. Okay, public comment roles. There's more to giving public comment than literally being the person speaking. You can be the person providing public comment at the meeting. You could be the person sending in written public comment, but you can also create those talking points for others, which is a great starting place for people who, are new, is looking at those, talking points and getting to use them if they're not experts on the subject. So creating talking points is super valuable. Amanda does a lot of ours and she is fantastic. Thank you, Amanda. Create, a shareable social media graphic, post things online, get the word out. The more people you can mobilize around any given issue, the better. Create a toolkit and a call to action with links to all those things above that help people, give public comment and get involved. and, organize and support others, to provide comment, especially once we can get, back together again, after COVID. This is going to be a fantastic opportunity to, okay, well, we can go together to, give public comment. I'll be there with you. You don't have to worry about, being nervous, things like that. There's all sorts of ways to contribute to this. So go ahead and find one that works for you. All right, next slide, please. All right. I believe the slides for this are being sent out, after the meeting. So I put the, links to a number of different, cities around San Diego County's websites so you could find their meeting information, because they're all in different places. I'm going to have Marie click on the first one, just as an example for the City of San Diego website, and just to see what that looks like and what that's like. All right, so we went straight to the page, which has all of the city council agenda and, agendas and minutes and how to actually give public comment, but if you'll scroll back up, Marie, and go ahead and mouse over the City Hall tab, you don't even have to click on it. If you look at that, you'll see that right there on the right side, they have, council meetings as a tab. You can that's literally all you have to do to find the information you need, is just click on that. All right, go ahead to the next slide, please. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is actually go to breakout rooms so you can practice giving public comment. Yay! We're going to break you up into 2 people, per breakout room approximately. We've given you a couple of, talking points. There is a doc in the chat, for you to click on. So choose one of those points, spend a minute, reworking the point, to include your personal story, use your own words to talk about it, and then practice it out loud with your partner and give feedback to each other about how you're doing on this.
Heather, can you put that link into chat so people can access it easily?
Oh, I think Amanda dropped it in the chat.
Oh, there it is. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so I'll see you back in a few minutes, everybody. Back. So exciting to see you all again. All right, Marie, can go to our last slide for this section. And first off, I'd like to see if we have one volunteer, if you could raise your hand, who would like to give their comment as a, little follow-up to our breakout rooms. Anybody?
All right, I'll go. Yeah, can't wait for too long. Just got to do it. All right. So hello, San Diego City Council. My name is Angelica. I am a constituent of District 7, Raul Campillo, and I'd like to give a couple notes on SB 54 and AB 1080, which are 2 critical bills that are aimed to reduce 75% of single-use plastic packaging and products in California by 2032. They would be banning single-use plastics, and it would reduce fossil fuels and reduce plastics in landfills, reduce plastic pollutions in oceans, and improve the health of all Californians and the planet. California is a leader in many different types of initiatives, and this is just another one to continue that forward momentum that California has. Thank you so much. Appreciate my time on this call. Thank you.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Angelica. That was a great comment. And thank you for stepping up. All right. If anybody has any questions, put them in the chat. And I think we have a couple minutes to answer them before we move on to our next section. Okay, do the various campaigns get together and discuss the issues before meetings so that everyone has details they can include? Yes, yes, we do. All of the different teams here at San Diego 350 have, regular meetings on their issues, and also quite a few of us are also involved in coalition meetings with other organizations that have, interests on the same issues. And, we do, a lot of the talking points, other things that we put together do come out of those meetings, and a lot of the tactics come together as we coordinate together on what to do on a various issue, the best way to go about tackling it, whether it's public comment or, some of the other tactics we've talked about at this meeting, and then we'll be talking about at the next training as well. Yay, more questions. Do you have any recommendations for how to personalize your comments? I struggle with this aspect. I want to hit the policy points, say what I want, but often my reason is because it's the right thing to do to address the climate crisis and, in general. And that's a great point, especially with some of the more esoteric things. It can be really hard to, connect and something that seems very academic, or very environmentally oriented with, your own life. And honestly, that's a really case by case basis one. One obviously is, pick a talking point that does resonate with you. I, care about, protecting our native lands because I care about nature. I'm a hiker, whatever. I care about the, franchise agreements at SCG&E because I'm a ratepayer. I care about, educating people on the climate crisis because I'm a teacher. So, or, sometimes it's literally just, because I do care about this, because I was raised to care about the world, or, whatever. Sometimes, there's not, great way to personalize it, other than personalizing yourself to the council people or whoever. And that is where mentioning a little bit about your background can come in handy, even if you're going to go with a straight academic talking point saying, hey, I am a, stay-at-home mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, whatever. At least, it gives them a sense of who you are as a person. What are examples of personal stories people give if someone is willing to share? My partner and I discussed how we had a difficult time making the comments more personal. Well, I think I hopefully just covered that. And should you always identify that you are from?
Can I give a quick example, Heather?
Sure.
Sylvia and I were talking about that also, and she was working on the plastics bill. And one example I gave, or two different examples that occurred to me, are one, I've done so much in my life to reduce plastic in my home, but there's so much that I can't do that we really need state leadership on, and that's why the bills are important. And I gave a slightly more detailed example. And the other one is like on the plastics here in San Diego. You see so much plastic in the canyons and the streams every time it rains, and it's washing out to the ocean and doing harm to animals, as well as creating, making climate change worse. So those are just some quick examples you could insert for that particular topic.
And also it's, other ways, bringing in the story of how you got to be interested in this, even if it's, again, a very academic or esoteric topic, hey, I grew up going to San Diego Zoo and hearing from them about the damage that plastics do to the environment, to animals, and that's why I care, that sort of thing. Anyway, back to the last question, which is, should you always identify that you're from San Diego 350? That one tends to be on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if you work for the organization in some sort of official capacity, you need to say it, because otherwise they are going to feel a little taken in when they figured it out. But it really depends. I say, especially if you're going completely off script and doing your entire own talking points that haven't been vetted by anyone, you might not want to claim that you're speaking for an organization that you're affiliated with. So then you might just want to identify as,
It's 3 o'clock.
And it tells me it's 3 o'clock and I should be really quick about this. But, sometimes it can be more powerful to show up as a block. Sometimes it can be more powerful to, show up as a collection of individuals. So it really is a tactic that gets worked out in the teams a lot of times. Okay, I am out of time for my section, so we're going to move on to Marie's, but thank you all very much. Marie, take it away.
Fantastic job, Heather. I learned a lot. And so now we're going to talk about meeting with elected officials. Now, this is something that I am relatively new with. I started organizing some meetings with the San Diego City Council candidates last July. And so these are just kind of my observations and things that I've learned through that experience and through other meetings I've taken a part of since then. Here we cover why we meet with elected officials and the best practices for holding meetings. So these include things that we do before, during, and after the meetings, such as how to prepare for them, creating meeting agendas, the do's and don'ts during meetings, and how to follow up after the meetings. Now, I will note that there are many different types of meeting for many purposes, and not all meetings require the same type of preparation. While we're covering a more exhaustive list here, not all of them apply to each type of meeting. So we ask that you basically consider the information provided in this section and then determine what parts apply for each of the meetings you plan or attend. And while we cover specifics for meetings during the pandemic, the principles presented also applied to in-person meetings as well. Okay, first thing we're going to do is going back into Jamboard and enter why you think we meet with elected officials. I will ask that if you have finished entering your sticky note in Jamboard, to exit the Jamboard so other people can access it. Well, thank you. Here we go. Now we've got a couple in. Showing the importance of an issue. Yes. Exercising your right to express your views to representatives. Yes. Definitely to influence policy. Very good. We want to develop relationships so that they know their constituents are real. So they understand the needs of the communities, to remind them that they represent us. This is good. They can get a better feel for the thoughts and opinions of their constituents. Point out something they may not know on it. Yes, education is a very important reason. To have a more personal connection when advocating for certain legislation. Again, that goes back to establishing or maintaining a relationship. To persuade them to vote on a specific piece of legislation. Yes, lobbying is a fantastic reason. Assume people with the opposite viewpoint will be vocal. It's important from lawmakers to hear your perspective, always. To hold them accountable, yes. And to build connection with people in the community, create change for those who are most marginalized, definitely. Personalize the coalition and the movement. Yes, that all goes into relationship building, which is very important. This is great stuff, everybody. Okay, so now we'll bounce back over into the slides. So reviewing why we meet with elected officials. A lot of people gleaned onto this, building working relationships, opportunity to talk directly with elected officials, opportunity to inform elected officials, and to advocate for important policy positions, ask elected officials for direct questions and force a response, and demonstrating political power. So it's very important that we build working relationships with elected officials and or their staff, because that facilitates trust and it opens up more opportunities for us to advocate for our policy priorities. And that's great. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that? You can put them in the chat. Okay, next up, these are things that we do before a meeting. First of all, you need to have a plan anytime you meet with elected officials, because you're not likely to achieve your goals without a good plan. How formal that plan is depends on the individual meeting, who you're meeting with, how many people, and who are involved in the meeting, and what your goals and priorities are. Is also important to understand the elected official, and that's the purpose of researching them. You want to get an understanding of what they care about, what they know, how they work, and how to best connect with them around your issues. You want to find out where they stood and stand on policies you care about, what policies they've written or supported, legislations they voted on in favor of or against. You also want to find out stuff about their background, where they're from, what did they do before they held public office, organizations they're aligned with, and even organizations that oppose them. In doing your research, you also want to find something you like about them. And this is important for meetings to be able to pay a sincere compliment to the person that you want to connect with. I'll give you an example of this. We were researching a particular Republican candidate to meet with. And so, you know, like I had difficulty finding policy things that I could compliment him on. And ideally, you know, if you can find something policy related, but I couldn't find that for this person. So what I did was I went to social media and looked him up. And lo and behold, I found that he was championing basically enhancing ADA protections for people with disabilities. And that, you know, strikes true and dear to my heart. So that was a compliment that I could say sincerely, and that changed the whole tone of the meeting. And this is how important this appreciation statement is. It set the tone of the meeting to be just very friendly. He really appreciated that I knew that about him, and he was able to tell a personal story about it. And so it made a connection for the whole meeting. So there's a real importance of doing that. Okay, and just so other things that you can do to look up information about candidates is basically look for interviews that they've been in and articles that they've written. Okay, next up, you want to identify the goals of the meetings. And this will make the meeting much more productive if you know what you exactly want to get accomplished. And in addition to identifying the goal, you want to write a purpose statement that conveys the purpose of the meeting to the EO. And we'll go into more of that when we talk about the 2 types of agendas that we'll produce. Examples for goals would be if you're trying to find out information about policy XYZ. If you want to educate the elected official, if you're advocating for a policy, if you want to inform them about your policy position, or it could even just be a meet and greet to establish a relationship, a working relationship with them. So examples of purpose statements would be, stronger measures in the climate action plan, or, support for AB 345, which is the 2,500 foot setback for oil and gas activities from schools, playgrounds, etc. It could be priorities of this coming environmental commission for this year. It could be determining the city's plan for the energy franchise agreements. Other things we do before a meeting include, obviously, you want to schedule the meeting with the elected officials. You want to prepare both an internal and external agenda, and we'll cover that in a bit. You want to prepare talking points and, if necessary, a leave behind document. Oftentimes, if you have material for an hour worth of talk and you only get a 30-minute meeting, you want to prepare a document that conveys your whole message, and you would give that to them right after the meeting through an email. You also want to establish meeting roles, and we'll cover that in a bit. You should also, when you're planning your meetings, is take a look at who attends the meetings. You want to make the meetings diverse and representative of the constituency. It's always good to bring somebody young into the meeting. The elected officials really seem to like that. Now, in the slide, I've written a pre-meeting guideline that contains this information. It also contains like helpful hints, how to rehearse the meeting, conduct notes for speakers, and what to do to meet early to prepare for the meeting. Okay, so now we get into meeting agendas. You have one internal agenda, which serves as a roadmap for your team members to ensure that everyone is on the same page about who is speaking, when, and about what topic. This is a very detailed document that helps our meetings run smoothly and efficiently. It includes the meeting date, time, and duration, the location link, and all the attendees. You want to make sure that all your roles are assigned in the internal agenda. It states who speaks and when, how long they have to speak. It contains links to your detailed talking points. It defines the time allotted for each, not only each speaker of the meeting, but also for the elected official or their staff to respond and ask questions. And you want at least a 50-50 split, if not, 60-40 towards the elected official side. Is used to also store the notes from the meeting, is used for rehearsing the meeting, and is not to be shared with anyone outside your team or organization. So you definitely don't want to share that with the elected official. Now, the external agenda, on the other hand, is a brief summary for the meeting. It would state the meeting date, time, and duration. It would contain a link or either physical location if it's in person or a link to the video conference session for the meeting. You want to list the members of your team and also the elected official and their staff, and you would want to include their titles. It would contain, a brief purpose statement, and then it would cover the topics also that you want to talk about. For example, if the purpose is to advocate for AB 345, which is that 2,500-foot setback, the topics may include safety requirements, health impacts, enhanced monitoring and maintenance of the requirements. And you want to send this to the elected official prior to the meeting. It can be sent in advance as soon as you create it, but it should also be sent like either the day before or the morning of the meeting as a reminder. And again, the templates are linked so that you can use them as a guidance. So next, we're going to go into what are the do's and don'ts for when meeting with elected official. Very good. Speak clearly and concisely. Don't just read your speech. Bring notes if you must, but deliver it directly, honestly, not by note. Practice and work on your speaking style. Avoid annoying ums, hus, you knows, about like. My favorite one. Don't be super aggressive. Correct. Very important. The idea of any meeting is to observe utmost diplomacy, because you want to, most importantly, maintain a working relationship. You can disagree respectfully, but always be respectful. Treat them like you would want to be treated. Yes, definitely turn your phone off, maintain a warm tone in your conversation, be courteous, be personable and genuine. Yes. People know when you're BSing them, so don't do that. It is not a good thing to present. Always be honest and genuine. And so even on disagreements, people will respond better if they know that it comes from a genuine part of you. Definitely be mindful of the time. Stick to the time so you can cover all priorities. And that's the important thing about forming your internal agenda so that you know exactly how much, like, let's say a speaking topic has 6 minutes total or something like that. Your speaking part may only be 3 minutes. And the rest of the time is allocated to the elected official. So you want to keep within your time. You want to practice. You definitely want to give the official a chance to respond. You treat it as a conversation. Connect if possible. If not, stay direct, but always be polite. Find ways to personalize your message. Yes. Adding personal twists to talking points is fantastic. Like if you're a teacher and you have issues with the health of your students, that's a great perspective to add. Okay, we have a bunch of great stuff here, and we will ask for a clear answer. Yes, definitely. So if they're being vague, ask for clarification and thank them, definitely. You want to thank them first for meeting with you and then for their valuable time that they're spending meeting with you. This is great stuff, everybody. Okay, so we'll advance. So here are some of the do's and don'ts. You always want to, again, be diplomatic. You want to dress as if you're meeting with them in person, well, at least from the waist up. You want to be mindful of your presentation, what you're wearing, what your background is. Are you in a noisy room? So think about how you want to broadcast your personal message. You're setting an impression. So be mindful of that. You want to always show up early and show up prepared. You want to make sure that, first of all, you can log into the meeting successfully. We've had, certain issues with that. It happens at times. And if you get there right on time, you're not going to have time to basically figure out what plan B is. You want to have the internal agenda ready to follow. And you want to have time to test that your microphone and camera are working properly. You want to listen as much or more than you speak. You want to acknowledge what they say. You want to acknowledge their views. It's often very productive to repeat it back to them. You can say, like, I understand that you think X, or so you're saying X, or you mean X. And this also helps clear up miscommunications, if any, because they have a chance to say, no, that's not what I meant. I actually mean this. So that's always a productive thing. You want to talk to them like they're regular people, because they are. You always want to be polite and show them respect, even if you disagree strongly. You can disagree, you can say it, but you can say it with respect. Speak slowly and clearly, not at them, and make eye contact. And what making eye contact means in the, in the virtual world during this pandemic is actually staring at your camera. If you need to read off your notes, move your notes right directly underneath your camera so that you can still glance at them and still basically maintain eye contact. Don'ts. Okay, you don't want to wear a mustard stained t-shirt. You don't want to meet from a noisy room. You don't want to argue or be combative, or be like, oh, I know everything better than you or something. That's extremely disrespectful. Even if you think you do, you don't want to relay that. It's okay to present a differing view or facts or say that you disagree, but never shove it down their throats. Never, never, ever misrepresent facts. Ever. Data, percentages, etc. Check your references before the meeting and perform your basic due diligence. You must build and maintain credibility with the EO in their office and be seen as a reliable, dependable source of information. And it's often good to have those references handy with you during the meeting. And I'll give you, for an example, I was in a meeting with one elected official, and somebody gave a presentation. In that presentation, they cited some percentages. The staff member said, oh, I thought it was only 30%. And it turns out that we were 5% off of ours when I went and checked the references, but I should have had that, or actually the person, doing the presentation should have had that at their ready to present at that time, because then there was a debate, is it 30% or is it 80%? So that's just an example that a situation you should try to avoid. And that's just by being prepared, right? You also don't want to assume that who you're talking to is fully up to speed on the topics in your agenda. They may not know the details that you have. This may be a new issue for them. They may be new to office. So you want to come prepared to basically, catch them up or give them resources. You never, ever, ever want to allow your meetings to run over unless the elected official specifically offers to stay longer. You want to be respectful of their time. If a topic takes longer than expected, and this happens, the elected official comments longer than expected, have your group plan to shorten topics and speaking times for each topic. Be prepared for this in advance. I'll give you another example. I was meeting with a candidate for the County Board of Supervisors office. And we gave them a nice agenda that clearly stated that we wanted to talk about 4 specific things. Well, when she went to introduce herself, when we had introduced ourselves and we said, okay, candidate so-and-so, please introduce yourself. She went on a 25-minute stump speech. So that basically, that threw everything into, that threw a wrench into our plans, and we had to communicate by direct messaging on, how to shorten things, how to reduce things, and to cut time. So that's something that you want to be prepared for, because it will happen. And again, unless they specifically say that they can stay longer, respect their time by ending the meeting as scheduled. We actually got a few comments from certain people that were extremely impressed with how we managed our meetings, and they said their staff could take examples from us. So that was a high compliment, and it goes to show that they notice. The elected officials will notice if you're having an organized meeting or a disorganized meeting, and that makes an impression. Okay, so next up, meeting roles that we discussed. Okay, their primary meeting roles. People often play multiple roles. It really depends on how many people you have on your team. What's important is that all the roles be covered. This I've described in the pre-meeting guidelines that you'll have linked in this document. The first role is the liaison. Now, this is a role that is the primary contact with the elected official or their office. And what this role does is they maintain that relationship. A facilitator, on the other hand, is a person who manages a meeting. So there could, on your team, you can have one liaison, and then people can take turns facilitating. The facilitator basically assigns roles for the meeting. They organize it. They run rehearsals. They make sure that the team is prepared for the meeting, and they facilitate agenda transitions. The facilitator generally does the opening, makes introductions, and closes its meeting, but you don't have to. Anybody can step into to those speaking points. The appreciator is someone who, we've talked about, expresses sincere, specific compliment to the elected officials, ideally about their stance on a policy or position, but it could be on anything that helps make that connection. Speakers, you can have one or more people designated to speak. You need to have somebody be the timekeeper that keeps everybody on schedule. And then you also have a note taker. What I will say about timekeeping is that you want to make sure that you coordinate how the timekeeper is going to relay when things are off schedule. And with the note taker, the only thing I'm going to note here is that everyone is responsible for helping make sure that the notes are complete. So even you have a designated note keeper, everybody on the team needs to pay attention to what's being said. And then you meet afterwards to afterwards to make sure that the notes are complete. So on into after the meeting. You want to debrief your team right after the meeting, and this ensures that the notes are complete. Identify any information that you need to send to the elected official or their staff. Identify answers or responses to questions that you need to address, and assign tasks if needed. And then you want to discuss any other internal follow-up activities. Now, this should only take about 10 minutes to do if everybody is up to speed, but go ahead and prepare to do that like right after the meeting. If it's a Zoom, a virtual conference meeting that you set up, just plan to stay behind. On the same day or the following day, you want to make sure that the EO and staff receives a thank you email that includes appreciation for the meeting, a recap of major topics, any major takeaways, any follow-up items that we said we'd find out. If more time is needed, then you let them know that you will follow up later with the details, and then include your leave behind document. Suggest a future meeting. Definitely you want to open up that opportunity. And oh, by the way, during the meeting, you want to take a Zoom photo or screen capture, and you want to send that to them. They seem to appreciate that. And then for housekeeping with the San Diego 350 side, we have an EO contact tracking form that we ask everybody to enter, and then verify that it's correctly stored in the spreadsheet. And then, a few weeks later or a month later at some time, be sure to follow up and try to schedule a subsequent meeting. Let's see, I think we have some comments that I have not been keeping up with. Okay. Experience where the lawmakers suddenly turn confrontational or angry, methods for staying calm. I mean, it's very likely that, I mean, some people get defensive, right? If you challenge or if you voice a different opinion, and that's very possible. So you just always want to be prepared for that happening and try to de-escalate the situation. Okay, now we're going to go into breakout room. I think I'm running a little behind schedule. I apologize for that. So in the breakout session, Amanda, can you put the link of the scenarios into chat? We have 8 minutes total time. We're going to choose our roles. Oh, sorry. Choose our roles, a topic, and scenarios, and those are provided for you. We're going to give you about 4 minutes to practice what a good meeting looks like given the scenario that you pick. You can use one of the samples or come up with your own, and then provide each other a little bit of feedback. Amanda, will you kick off the breakouts? Fantastic. So do we have any highlights or questions from the breakout?
Yeah, wait, are we supposed to chat or just say?
No, actually, yeah, put it in chat if you have questions. In fact, I am just mute everybody. Is there a video of a mock or real meeting to give the beginner an idea? No, not that I don't think that there is a mock-up of one, and we certainly would not record a video of an actual meeting. That would not facilitate honest conversation. Great exercise, but we need more time. Yes, I apologize, Jeff, that I ran a little over on my material. But like everything, all the information I presented is documented in like 4 or 5, in like 4 different documents. So you will have access to those. What phrases can be used if the EO is off topic or past time? Well, if you can get a word in edgewise, like if they're if they are like running past time, you can try to redirect them that we value your time and don't want to keep you any longer. Perhaps we can address the questions later on. So you have to kind of like gently nudge them in the right direction. And then if they're off topic, you would again say, this is valuable. This is a valuable, talking matter. Perhaps we can discuss it at a later meeting. For now, we want to try to address the topics that we set forth to discuss. So gentle nudging, but you really have to go with your gut during the time. And I personally don't have enough experience in meetings with that. So I can just say, use your best judgment. Okay. But it's, yeah, Masada, we can't do a mock meeting. Okay, any other questions? I see a lot of comments in here, so I won't necessarily respond to those. Okay, well, thank you all for playing. And next up is Amanda.
All right, thanks, Bree. So you want to go to the next slide for me? Awesome. So now that we have all learned some new skills, hopefully it's time to put them to use. So here are a couple of upcoming opportunities to speak up, especially at public meetings. So there's an environment committee meeting happening on Thursday, February 25th at 1 p.m. That will be a great place to give public comment. Also, encourage you to advocate for a better energy distribution system by attending a community forum on the franchise agreements. More meeting information and talking points for those forums are going to be linked in the slides. I'll share those with you in a second. And then also join the public policy team. You can email us at publicpolicy@sandiego350.org. Next slide.
Yeah, and actually, Amanda, can you address Bill's question? What is part 2? I know you discussed that earlier.
Thank you. Yeah, part 2 is going to be on Sunday, February 21st at 2 p.m. We're going to be covering how to multiply your impact by recruiting friends to join. Let's see, how to write letters to the editor and how to contact elected officials through phone, email, and social media. So that's coming up. I'll be sure to drop the link to sign up there. Also, we'd really encourage we'd really love if you filled out our survey. This would be really useful information for us so we can improve on this training in the future. And it also helps us document what activities you're interested in getting involved in, especially at San Diego 350, so we can alert you for upcoming opportunities to engage in policy advocacy. And then also invite you to our next public policy team meeting. That's next Sunday at 2 p.m., February 7th. Again, if you would like to join us, we can send you the meeting information by sending us an email, publicpolicy@sandiego350.org. Last, I'm going to share these slides and the link to register for the next training. And from there, I think we are